It's time to get started, and we'd like to welcome all of you to our board meeting this evening. Yeah. Oh, it is. All right, students, in your seats. Still didn't work. Oh, it kind of did. You too.
I'm sorry I'm tardy. That's 2 meetings I've been late to.
Well, we're used to. Oh, no. We would like to welcome you all out to our board meeting this evening. The agenda is posted on each side of the room and at the front. And we thank you for being with us this evening. We'd like to start our board meeting this evening with a student presentation by Ashton Grimley and Kaylee Bennett, storytellers from Lowman View Elementary School. And when they are finished, Kaylee will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So we will now turn the time over to them to give their stories.
I'm Ashton Grimley, and I'm going to be telling Pojo's story, written by me, Ashton Grimley. My story starts 25 years ago with a penguin named Pojo. Pojo lived in a very small village called Snowville. At the time, it was just Pojo, his two brothers, Ronnie and Jojo, and two very, very, very nosy birds, or so he thought. This is the story of when Pojo meets a couple new friends. Once upon a time... Wait, no. Let's try this. One dark and stormy night. One problem. It's not a dark and stormy night. Wait. One bright and shining day. Okay. One bright and shining day, the three penguins were just doing their thing, watching the iceberg channel, snacking on fish, when all of a sudden, on the iceberg behind them, they heard the two birds talking about something new. Now, before I get into that, I just want to say, you probably think that birds that can fly can't withstand the freezing cold weather of the Antarctic. But nobody told this pelican and blue jay that. So they're flying around. So the three penguins listened to the two birds talk, and they heard them talking about new friends. So the three penguins looked at each other, and then they bolted to go find their new friends. So they're walking, having a nice little journey. Oh my gosh! Oh, sorry, that's just a sea lion. They walk a little bit farther, and as they do, they come across two big, white, ginormous polar bears. So Pojo said to his brothers, "These must be our new friends." So they run up to them, greet them, tell them who they are, and walk with them the whole way home. Now when they got home, the three penguins built the two polar bears a nice, cold, icy house to live in. And when they were done, the two polar bears invited the three penguins over to a sleepover. And I mean, who can resist a sleepover? So, a sleepover they had. But when they were in the middle of the night, they heard footsteps. And not just any footsteps, big, loud, human footsteps. So they got up, the three penguins that is, to go see what was going on. And as they did, they heard chains rattling, traps thumping, and loud snarly voices growling. So they continued walking. Not far into it, they came across three hunters. So they hid behind some icebergs before the hunters could see them. But then when the hunters came, just a little bit closer, one of the hunters said to the others, "Shh! I smell fish." And then out of the blue, the two friendly polar bears come scratching and snarling and scare the hunters away for good. And they lived happily ever after. Wait, no. Find the end. Wait. And they were never to be bothered with again. Finally, a good one comes to me. The end.
My name is Kaylee Bennett, and I will be telling Falling for Rapunzel by Leah Wilcox. Once upon a bad hair day, a prince rode up Rapunzel's way. From up above he heard her whine, upset her hair has lost its shine. He thought her crying was a plea, and sallied forth to set her free. Alas, she was too far away to quite make out what he had to say. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." She thought he said, "Your underwear." "No, your curly locks." Rapunzel threw down dirty socks. "No, my love, just your silky tresses." Rapunzel threw out silky dresses. And lace unfroze up to his head. The prince's cheeks were blushing red. "Do you have a rope?" Rapunzel dropped a cantaloupe. It burst in pieces on his head. "Oh, bad catch," Rapunzel said. "How about twine?" Rapunzel heaved out her blue ribbon swine. "That's a pig." By now the prince was feeling hammered, not to mention less enamored. He growled up, "Do you have a ladder?" Rapunzel tossed out pancake batter. It covered him from head to toe. She yelled, "It's better cooked, you know." And this the poor prince just had to cry, and cupped his hands for one last try. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your braid." Confused, Rapunzel pushed out her maid. The maid fell squarely on the prince, quite pleased with coincidence. She nimbly jumped off the prince's lap, and soon revived the flattened chap. She set the prince upon his steed, and leaped upon with graceful speed. And leaning close so he could hear, she whispered something in his ear. "I fell for you the first time we met." He nodded. "How could I forget?" Rapunzel watched him ride from sight. "I'm glad I finally heard him right. And if he comes back for more, I'll hope he'll think to you knock on my back door." The end. Now will you all join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Another round of applause for our wonderful stories. First item on our agenda this evening is the consent calendar. Board, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We will now go to the part which I think most of you are here for, and this is the recognitions. We'd like to turn the time over to Art Hansen.
All right. Christina, Andre, would you join me? President Richardson, Board, Superintendent Stevens, I'm so excited to introduce these two wonderful ladies to you. They are teachers at Bonneville High School. and they teach in the life skills unit. And they are wonderful, wonderful people with great enthusiasm. And they were nominated by Principal Larry Hadley back there for the E-Plus Team Award. And the E-Plus Team Award is where we recognize great partnerships, teams working together in our schools to benefit our students. And I think by the end of this presentation, you will recognize also why they were nominated and see why I'm so excited to present them to you tonight. I'm going to start with a letter a nomination letter that Principal Hadley wrote to the committee that looks at who we will recognize each month. And I'm just going to summarize some of the things that he said, and they received a copy of this. But he said, "It is my great pleasure to be writing this letter for and on behalf of our life skills team and their team leaders. Our two team leaders, Christina Olson and Andrea Swanson, are nothing short of angels amongst mortals." They're nothing short of angels amongst mortals. Now, I mean, I know Mr. Hadley well, and I don't hear him. He's never said that about me. But angels amongst mortals, that's pretty big praise from your principal. And they honestly roll up their sleeves and go to work no matter if they are short-staffed or receive an entirely new staff from year to year. Then he goes on, says, "I try not to brag on accomplishments in our building because any student's success is the product of many individuals. But in our life skills unit, all efforts and recognitions belong on the side of Christina and Andrea. Our Best Buddies program has received national recognition, all due to the time, effort, and commitment of Christina and Andrea." Now, what is the Best Buddies program? Christina shared this with me, and I used to be at Bonneville, and I love the Best Buddies program. It's a wonderful thing. But what it is, Best Buddies is an international program that has a mission to establish a global volunteer movement that creates opportunities for one-to-one friendships, integrated employment, and leadership development for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. This is achieved by matching student volunteers in mutually enriching friendships with persons with disabilities. Best Buddies is a club that is meant to promote inclusion and lifelong friendships between people with and without disabilities. All right, so, I've seen the kids that have been part of this, the student peers, peer leaders, and watched them interacting with your students in the classrooms, and they love what they do, and they build strong friendships just in the classroom. But these two ladies have taken it a step further, and I'll go back to Principal Hadley's letter here. "Our Best Buddies has a night of activities each month for our students and peer leaders. This year, our homecoming dance was made complete when our severe unit was able to host a homecoming dinner before the dance and then have all of our students attend our dance. Our students were thrilled that all Lakers were able to take part in our homecoming festivities. It has been great to see Lakers come together. What Christina and Andrea are accomplishing is paving the way for all student achievement." Let's see what this looks like since they have a monthly activity. And we're not just talking during the day. That was sound like a full day activity almost for homecoming. Well, here we are at homecoming with our students, our Best Buddy students, and their peer leaders, having a great time. They ate dinner together, then they had a wonderful night at the dance. Another activity was going to see the Christmas lights. And here they are with their Best Buddies and their peer leaders. And this year, Bonneville is proud to announce, in fact, Christina says it was really her proudest moment. At Bonneville High School, they have crews or clubs. And Mr. Bonneville contest is really a big, big thing there. And each club in the school can nominate one boy to compete for the crown of Mr. Bonneville. And as you can see, this year's winner of Mr. Bonneville was none other than one of our best buddies, Braxton DeMille. And here he's proudly accepting the crown and the robe as Mr. Bonneville. We know when there's a great program at a school, it's because of the people that create that and run that program. And the people that care enough to just go the extra mile. And that's what this E-Plus team is. People that take and go the extra mile and do something really, really special. And I'm going to end on a little quote that Christina sent to me. And she said, "What we love most about Best Buddies is the growth we have seen in our students, both in a social aspect as well as in self-esteem. This program has brought so much happiness to us, as well as to students with and without disabilities." Can you see why we're so happy to award the E-Plus team to these wonderful ladies? And now, I told you, I warned you, we're going to give you a chance to introduce those who've come with you this evening, get some pictures with the board, and thanks, and let's give them a great big hand.
So, the taller half of me, my husband, Charles Swanson. He's the reason why I'm here.
And we did just want to say thank you to you guys and to Larry for this award. My husband's here. He doesn't want to stand. He's like, just tell him I'm not here today. Anyway, that's my husband, Ryan. So.
Can I give you that?
Yes, thank you.
And that?
Thank you.
And one more round. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Art, thank you for your presentation. We will now turn the time over to Lisa Gilstrap for the Green Acres Volunteer Award. Lisa?
Will you be my switcher? All right. Well, good evening, Board, Superintendent Stevens, guests. I'm Lisa Gilstrap. I'm the principal of Green Acres, and it's my privilege to be the principal of Green Acres, and it's my honor to present an award to Denise and Brett Holmes. And I'll have you come up and support me like you have over the past 7 years. Okay, I'm gonna try and manage many devices, multiple devices. This is Brett and Denise Holmes, and this story begins when I came to Green Acres and discovered what lies at the end of this rainbow. It's a golden community that works collaboratively with the school for the benefit of the kids. I've been in a lot of schools, and I've never seen this amount of volunteering and support from a school community before. Right, Janice? This is a pretty special community. So, Mr. and Mrs. Holmes, oh, I gotta change the thing. Mr. and Mrs. Holmes are the king and queen of volunteering and support. It started when this guy, their son Micaiah, entered kindergarten. Brett and Denise were the ideal parent partners for their child's education, but they did not stop there. They mobilized to positively impact all students of the Green Acres community. Denise started volunteering with the PTA, soon taking over the entire Box Top fundraising campaign, and Brett joined the community council, which he's chaired since that time. And he's done a fabulous job of organizing our community council. How many itty-bitty box tops does it take to earn $4,518.90? Janice knows. She knows. And Brett and Janice always ask me, is there anything I can do for you? And they mean it, and they do it. Whoa. Okay. But it's much more than talk with the Holmes. They put their time, talents, and resources behind their words. It takes time to count and mail 45,000 box tops, chair community council, and provide the follow-through necessary, but they do. And some wonderful things have happened as a result of their work, which is the next slide. Their support and input were instrumental in our school improvement process. Now, we were never in the disheartening school improvement that the state imposes. We, the faculty, community council, and PTA of Green Acres, sought out a plan to bring higher aspirations to our school, something to identify us. And as a result, we became a STEM emphasis school, eventually earning a bronze STEM school designation from the State Board of Education. I'm just going to stop right there because that's a pretty big deal. We were in the first group. Only 19 schools throughout the state received that designation, and it was a big deal, and it's brought some big changes to our school. I would like to put a personal note in here. Green Acres families are gold. They have supported me from the day I arrived, but the Holmes specifically have had such a spirit of collaboration that has been very influential to my development as principal. As brand new, this is the only place I've principaled, and they've been very supportive. I would not have had the courage to take on some of the things we've done in the last few years without the many conversations that I've had with these two people, but it's much more than conversations with the Holmes. They put their time, talent, and resources behind their words. We started a Robotics Club, because heaven forbid we're not going to be left behind, and Brett coached a team. Not the Pinewood Derby style coaching, but coaching the team, where the kids built and designed the robots, and they programmed the robots, and they redesigned the robots, and they reprogrammed the robots, and yeah, they did. That's what you always wear. He has been our advocate in the community. Okay, so from Jana Frost, our robotics director, she says, Brett and Janice have helped with robotics a ton. Brett coached the first year we had robotics. He has been our advocate in the community as well. This year, Brett set up a field trip for the Robotics Club. We went to ATK and learned so much and had a great time. Now, Kristen's husband worked at ATK for years. You don't get into ATK. Elementary school kids don't go to ATK on field trips. So this was really, really exciting for them to see automation and robotics and work in progress. For 3 years in a row, Jana continues, Janice and Brett have spent their time getting donations and running the concession stand at our robotics competitions. This has been financially extremely helpful. They have been so supportive of the Robotics Club, they will be deeply missed. I have really appreciated all the hours they have spent volunteering. Mrs. Teller adds, I think that's the next slide. Last year, this is from Mrs. Teller, who's here. Last year, Mr. Holmes set up a field trip to a 3D printing facility for 30 of our 5th graders. I had the privilege of taking the students. They were fascinated to see the 3D models of different body parts and learn about the applications in medicine for this cutting-edge technology. They also saw architectural pieces that served as prototypes of buildings and other interesting one-of-kind novelties. Watching the designers, learning about 2 different processes used on the 3D machines, and watching the 3D pieces begin to emerge from the printers was a memorable and exciting STEM experience for the kids. You've heard how Mr. and Mrs. Holmes were both instrumental in launching our school's robotic program. Our class also appreciated Mrs. Holmes providing fun treats for our parties straight from the kitchens of the ATC. As a teacher, I really appreciate parents like the Holmes who are a strong support for our school and who work alongside the teachers so that their child gets the most out of his or her education. That might be the one place where I failed in Mr. Holmes' eyes. He wanted us to get a 3D printer, and I just couldn't pull the trigger on that one. So we're not done yet. I know, we got. So sure, all of this was of a benefit. It was beneficial to Makayo. But it's also been beneficial to all of the other kids at Green Acres for the last 7 years and far into the future. So it is with my heartfelt appreciation that I present the volunteer award to Brett and Denise Holmes. I guess I should get it. Is that it? I present this award to Brett and Denise Holmes. You're welcome. Who did you bring with you?
My mom and dad, Charlene and Clark Holmes, are here, and our son. I'm good.
No pictures? I'm new at this.
Let's have another round of applause for our wonderful volunteers. Are you guys ready to do something over there?
Ready.
Okay, we would now like to turn the time over to Lynn Raymond and Nick Harris for a digital teaching and learning grant, a presentation on the subject.
All right, well, Superintendent Stevens and the board, we appreciate this opportunity to be here and kind of talk a little bit about House Bill 277. So last year, in the legislation was kind of set aside for, well, as you probably know, over the past several years, they've been trying to get a sum of money put together for education for a digital teaching initiative. And even though it started out with lofty goals of hundreds of millions of dollars, it whittled down to 10 million ongoing each year and 5 million one-time fund. And that was an application that we had to put together to get that. And with a lot of input and a lot of help from a lot of people in this room and throughout the district, we were able to do that. And so we're going to talk a little bit about this and kind of a little bit of the role in it, but we do want you to understand that this was not just tech services, even though we're presenting it. There's a lot of people over here that have helped us and out in the schools and everything, so we appreciate all of the work and effort that have gone into it. Just to kind of give you an overview of it. So, as I mentioned, it's $10 million ongoing for the whole state, $5 million one-time fund, and so over the next 3 years, you had to do a grant a grant application that, and we're going to talk a little bit more in detail what our plan was. Each district could submit whatever plan they wanted. The timeline, basically, they told us just about a month ago that the money was available, and we have to show by 1st of July that we have seen considerable improvement with that amount of money. So we're on a pretty fast timeline. The data is again, we've got to have some data by that time frame. The training that is required, we're going to show you a little bit more also on what training we're doing, but that was a component that was required in the application. And then the other goal that was interesting was they recommended that we raise a SAGE proficiency area by 5%. And so we chose language arts in conjunction with the superintendency and the curriculum department, as we talked about. Probably the best area, language arts, especially at the junior high level, had reached kind of a plateau, and we felt like that was an area that we could really get in, and with this amount of money have a considerable difference in being able to raise those scores. And so in preparation for that, what we've been doing on the back end the whole year to prepare for this, by the end of this summer, every classroom in the district will have a wireless access point, just like that, so that every classroom can completely house a full set of any type of wireless devices for the students. The other thing that we had to update was the wireless controllers. Those wireless controllers let us take all of those 16,000 wireless access points and kind of streamline the network so we're not bogging down. If you can imagine I-15 out there and all the changes they're making on the network, we've got to do the same thing. As more and more cars or as more and more devices get on the system, we have to manage all of those so that they don't come to a bottleneck. And so a lot of this money that we're getting initially, the one-time monies, we're going to be putting into updating our wireless controllers, making sure that the switches are all up to date and can handle all of the new wireless technology and the speeds that we need to for all of the students and the Chromebooks that are going to be enrolled out there. And then the other thing that we did was we completely restructured tech services and how tech support happened in the school. And in doing it that way, we were able to double the amount of time that a school tech is at the elementary and junior highs. So to help with the one-on-one support with the schools. So here are the devices. Here. I'll let you take that.
Well, while Lynn hands that out, I'll just talk since I have the mic. So in the background, we've got our techs they've been working on, and 1,800 laptops are sitting in the warehouse. They've all been ordered, they've been enrolled, they're set up, they're ready to be delivered to over 35 Chromebooks, are going to come to over 60 classrooms. That includes regular ed and special ed classrooms in the junior high. So our goal is for every single English classroom in the junior high to have their own set of laptops. So that's going to happen. And the way that, one of the things... Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Just to give you an idea, the reason why we picked these particular devices, they're cost effective. We can get into them for under $300 for the full cost. That's with enrolling them in and managing them and everything. They're an 11-inch screen. These have been mill tested, and so we're not going to demonstrate it, but you're supposed to be able to drop it from about 5.5 feet on any angle, and it's okay. The biggest struggle we have that every district in the nation struggles with students using devices like this is the breakage rate, as you can imagine. If you've seen a book after it's been in a backpack for very long, you can imagine what it does to an electronic device. So these, you can feel around them, the rubberized stuff on them. So we tested a whole bunch of different devices, and these seem to be the most robust because we want them to last 4 years. That's the end of life that we're going to go with on these systems, is a 4-year refresh rate on them. So they're a pretty good system. Typically on a computer, the hinges right here bust a lot. You'll notice these will go to a flat. They've done a lot of things to try to make them good for a student device. So that's why we picked this particular device. And like Nick said, if you go down to our warehouse, we've got stacks and stacks of these all over the warehouse getting ready to go out.
So as Lynn mentioned, one of the things that was required in the grant was how are we going to develop teachers professionally, and what kind of support are we going to give them. And it's our goal, this is the Weber way, we're not just going to throw technology. Our goal is to focus on pedagogy and use technology to support good teaching. And one of the ways we want to do that, these Chromebooks run the Google Suite. And so what we wanted to do was to make sure that teachers are trained professionally. They understand how to use it. They understand the best ways, the best options and applications inside the Google Suite to use. So we thought the very best way, the symbol of learning how to use the Google Suite, is to become Google certified educators. And so we built that into our grant. We want to train everybody, all the English teachers, teach them how to become, how to use the Chromebooks and then become Google Educator certified. So in order to do that, we had to, we're talking 80 teachers. We've got to bring them in and we've got to ask them to be students while they teach their kids, while they prepare for the SAGE test, while they grade essays. On top of all that, we've asked them to also learn this Google stuff, and they've been phenomenal. The way we tried to do this professional development was we decided we'd split up into about 4 phases. Phase 1, they've been in for the last 7 weeks. So phase 1, they've been, we did a little pre-assessment to see what their strengths and weaknesses were, and then they've been in Google Classrooms themselves, with me as the teacher and Quinn as the teacher and Lynn as the teacher, going through steps, and they're all in cohorts, and they've been doing writing and skill assignments weekly, which I'm sure they were thrilled about. I'm sure they were super excited, but they've been phenomenal. Their assignments have been awesome. Phase 2 starts next week, and what we're going to do is bring them into WIC for a whole full day of intensive training. While we're in there, we're going to be looking at bringing their lesson plans in, digitizing them, and then they're going to use Google Suite to share those lessons. So by the end of the week, they will have access to 80 lessons prepared by each other and vetted by each other, and all in the same folder that they can use that will be there for them. At the same time, we're trying to teach some language arts, some language arts skills. The best use of writing, the best way to that Google will help in your PLCs. We have some serious pedagogy going on at the same time. Then the next day, after they're trained, they're going to go in and take the test, which consists of a 2-hour test that they have to sit in front of a computer with a camera so Google can make sure it's the same person taking the test the whole time. They have to do 11 skills, anywhere from creating a Google form to creating a Google site. And we've been doing that all along in the 5 to 7 week training. So they should be able to just sit down and hammer right through it, and I know they're all going to pass. That's why I'm not too worried about that phase 4, which is called remediation. We're going to skip that because we won't need it. But the thing about it is, we want to make sure that the teachers understand this is about ELA pedagogy. It's about good teaching and how technology can support that, and it's just another quiver, another arrow in their quiver. And to show you kind of what's been going on, like any good classroom, we've got students that are excelling. and we've got students that are just taking this and running with it in ways that we didn't even see coming. One of our good students is Jenna Knorr, and Jenna is a teacher at South. And so we asked her to, come on up. We asked her to throw some stuff together here to show you exactly what's going on in her classroom because it's awesome. I'll turn the time over to you.
I want you to know that's Christmas for me. I'm so excited. Did you just tack mine on? Yeah. Fancy. Okay. Where do we point this? Ah, that's where the brain is. Okay. As you might be able to tell, I'm a bit of a technology native and I'm not super tenured in teaching. So I started out using technology in college and in my ESL certification that I took alongside Becky. It has been so helpful for me being able to use technology like we're going to be using with these Chromebooks. My goals when I started out with using things like the G Suite and Chromebooks, I should add, I've been blessed with a set of Chromebooks in my classroom all year this year, and quite a bit of access last year. So I'm a little bit farther ahead than a lot of the other junior high English teachers will be. But my goals were I wanted to save time, I wanted to cut down on management issues, and I wanted it to be relevant to the kids. Some big things that I've been able to do is pre-tests, quizzes, reminders, notes. It's instantaneous. They don't lose it. It's awesome. Projects as an English teacher, I can do directions, models, rubrics, drafts, peer comments, self-evaluation. It's impressive. I'll give you some examples of those later. These are a few things, just screenshots, frankly, not very high quality. But my club, they can post comments about directions, asking me for clarification. I can see it at home. I can respond from my phone, but never exchanging personal information and always tracked. I can give quizzes. They get instant feedback on their quiz. I can set it to let them retake it. I like to do pre-tests where they can see a summary of other kids' responses. It's so fun to hear what they say. They're like, oh, I'm not the only kid who got that wrong. That's good for a kid to realize on a pre-test. Students. Oh, darn. I made a couple changes to this right before I came. I wanted to come up, give you my results. I thought my priorities were time management and relevance. Now I see that my priorities are best practice. If I post an assignment on Google Classroom, I know immediately if my kids don't know what the expected outcome is. I know immediately if they don't have a good enough model. I know immediately if the rubric doesn't make sense. And so it forces me to use best practice. Collaboration is off the charts. I get to collaborate with teachers in other states. I get to digitize my resources, have someone improve them, and then give them back to me. I get comments from students on their assignments while they're at home. Not only are they retaking quizzes at home, they're asking me questions while they're at home. They can send private comments and say, Miss Knorr, I didn't understand this part. Could you clarify? I open up their assignment, I clarify, and I send it back. Depends on whether I'm willing to work outside contract hours, but when it only takes 3 minutes, sometimes I do it. All right, students, I thought they would be happy that it was accessible, engaging, and that they would get feedback. They have been very pleased with those things. They are also experiencing the power of collaboration. These past couple days, I've had kids working on argument essays, and they are watching videos, reading articles, using our textbook, and they're seeing the synergy of using multimedias. They are using an an extension called Gubrix to evaluate each other's writing with the rubric that I created that matches the SAGE rubric. It's awesome. This is an example of that thing I just told you about. I no longer print my assignment requirements. I no longer write on their assignments. I give them feedback. I type in that box. I type the numbers they earned in certain areas. I click submit. It sends them an email and it permanently attaches the rubric to their assignment. This is an example of a project I gave. So the top two are documents that they're each going to get their own personal version of. The dog can't eat it anymore. The printer can't break. It's automatically turned in the moment they open the assignment. I have a movie that they have to watch. They always watch the movie first. Then they get to read some articles. They get to compare it with their textbook. Projects are off the charts, what I can do with this. I love making graphic organizers with them. Kids are really motivated to fill in pictures. They like it. And then I can force them to have someone leave 3 comments on it before they can turn it in. So they have to give their Chromebook to someone else and have them assess how they're doing in meeting our objectives. I think this is the last one. Oh, this is what I see. I can see how many students have done it. I can give them feedback. I can give them scores. It also tells me when they turn it in late. So I can set a deadline as midnight, and it lets me know if they turned it in late. There was a video. They were really excited. A couple of them think they're going to be famous. Oh, it's not actually very thrilling, but it's really fun to see how good they are getting at manipulating it. That keypad is really intelligent. They can split their screen, so they have one screen with the answers that they gave on their quiz and one screen with their corrected quiz. And they'll go through and be like, I missed this one, so that's the wrong answer. And they'll actually think through why they got it wrong, and they'll actually find the right answer. It's amazing. They'll be glad that they're famous. Sorry. I think this is today. Oh, I didn't give you permission to show my video. I'm sorry. But, questions? Go ahead.
I just have a comment. You said you can give them till midnight to do their assignment. I've got a high school junior, and I would appreciate if it would be more like 9 o'clock.
I can also do
because
that.
Because they procrastinate to the end, and I'd rather them be done by 9. Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a good idea. I'm still thinking college expectations sometimes. Those were midnight.
Completely keyboard driven. So the next batch that we order will also be touchscreen.
I heard a complaint of Chromebooks the other day because you get down into the K through 3 grade.
Right. Yeah, so everything up till now, the G4s have only been keyboard. They just released the touchscreen G5 version, and so we've already ordered some of those in to get them and test them. So yeah, the next ones will be touchscreen, the next group bought. So the struggle right now with that isn't actually the touch screen, it's the apps that are built. iPad still has a lot of K through 2 apps that have not been developed yet for the Chrome, but Google is really pursuing hard those same, they're kind of taking nationwide the apps and the producers of those and kind of going after them and saying, hey, will you develop one for the Chromebook also? And they're claiming that they're getting a lot of developers that are saying yes, they will. So we anticipate that in a very short time, Chromebooks will be able to go to a K2 environment also. Price-wise, so an iPad Air 2, which is the ones that we'll be getting this year, they're right about $400, and the Chromebook's about $250. So it's pretty significant, yeah, in the price difference. Now, the other thing that we want to tell you is, so as soon as so this is all the language arts teachers, special ed and regular ed at the junior high, and they will finish up that testing this next week, and then in a couple of weeks we will start that same training for the high school language arts teachers, special ed and regular ed, and they'll finish that before the end of school, and then they'll get Chromebooks rolled out to their classes for the next year for the start of school. So, is there anything else you need to? So, that's what we're doing with HB 277, if anybody asks. Well, thank you.
Board, any other questions? Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. We're going to trade you. We're going to gather back our Chromebooks and trade you for some Google glasses.
Google glasses. This is so you can Google people.
Oh, look at that widget. That's very kind.
Very kind, is it?
Very kind.
Is it below the gift limit?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Nick and Hal, thank you. We have two discussion items that we need to have a vote upon this evening. The first item is reappointment of our business administrator, Dr. Robert Peterson. So, without going into detail, it is a 2-year contract, and we have grilled Robert extensively on his performance. And board, do I have a motion to extend an additional 2-year contract to Dr. Robert Peterson as business administrator of the Weber School District?
So moved.
You got beat, you better second.
Third.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Robert.
All right, I was wrong. Congratulations.
Our last item of business this evening, we will turn the time over. It's the approval of the boundary adjustments. And I would just like to preface this with, this is a process that is prescribed by policy here in the district. And it is, I'm not sure it's unique in the state, but it's certainly unique to what people are used to. And that is, the district comes up with the criteria. We have too many students here, not enough students here, and then it is turned to community councils, community involvement totally for the solution. This isn't a bunch of district people sitting down and creating a plan. It's the people in the area that will be affected by these boundary adjustments. And it's unique and very collaborative and definitely involves the stakeholders. And so, Art, we'll turn the time over to you and hope I haven't stolen any of your thunder.
Well, that was a great segue. We could have paid you for that. Board Superintendent, it's a pleasure for Art and I to be here and talk to you a little bit about the process that we've been through with schools and parents and community members the last few months. What President Richardson said is exactly right. We followed policy 451 that's been put by the board to us to follow, and want to remind the board that this is considered what we've done is a level 3 boundary adjustment, which means that more than one school is involved and several students. And it may affect the elementary, junior high, and high schools simultaneously, which is what Art and I are here for. This was a big project. President Richardson also indicated that this is a collaborative project, and as you can see, let me try this. As you can see right here, the board policy states that it will be collaborative. We have had principals, representatives from community councils, PTAs, directors from various departments. Our transportation specialists have been playing key roles, and we've had teachers participate as well. And of course, the last part of that policy states that it requires approval of the board, which we will ask you about later. Another part of policy 4151 talks about what the steps are for a level 3 boundary adjustment. I'm not going to go through those because I'm sure you know them, but I do want to verify and assure you that all of these steps have been followed through the process. We started with a timeline and met on November 16th with identified members from each school affected to create a district boundary study committee. That committee consisted of an administrator, a teacher representative, and a parent from each school. I'm not going to go through the whole timeline. I know you have it in your packets. I believe you do. And we are down to March 1st. So here we are to present. A couple of things that Art and I would like you to know are the things that were considered as we met with our boundary study committees. There was a lot of data that was presented and hashed out, looked at, studied. Things like student numbers by school and by grade. Trent Bills, who we owe a debt of gratitude to, has numbers figured out to the T. So as we talked about different sections and areas in these communities, he was able to tell us how many fifth graders that entailed, how many first graders that involved, and he was very, very helpful to us. So as we looked at those student numbers by those study areas, we also spent quite a bit of time talking about building capacity, because we have a few buildings that are over capacity with enrollment right now, and we have a few others that are under capacity. So we looked at some of that data, and we also looked at growth trends, what's been happening over a period of time with the growth in different areas and in different buildings. We also had a lot of information, some from Trent, some from principals, who brought information about future developments and building permits and areas inside our boundaries that have already been, building has already begun. And so we took a look at a lot of maps and talked to a lot of city and county people to get the information that we needed to do an accurate job. Some of the other input that we considered were parent concerns. We've been listening to those. Got my last email last night about 10:40. We've considered those concerns and community input. I can honestly tell you that our committees have worked very hard to make sure the voices of their constituents have been heard. Busing was an issue. We always want to make sure that we're doing what's best for kids. We're not making a boundary adjustment that's going to put their safety at risk in any way, shape, or form. So that's just a few of the things that we considered throughout the process. So what I'd like to do is take you through the Canesville boundary study, and then I'm going to turn the mic over to Art so that he can talk to you about the two junior high school studies. So when we got our group together, we gave them this task to alleviate overcrowding at Canesville. And I think, board, most of you know that we, a few years ago, added 8 classrooms onto Canesville Elementary. We now have 2 portables, and they are full. So they're beyond capacity, and their neighbors to the southwest have 5 open classrooms currently. So we started looking at where we might shift some students, and we looked at Country View and West Haven since they are neighboring schools. We also wanted to make sure that in addition to optimizing any available seating, we didn't want to do anything that would be contrary to what Art was trying to accomplish with his boundary studies as well. So we took that into consideration each time we met. So I want to just take you through. Initially, we had a couple proposals, and I gave you a handout. I hope you received it. A handout that showed more detail about that process. This is a really cool thing. It's kind of like magic. And Trent is responsible for a lot of this magic. So the area that we looked at is this south section and west section of Canesville Elementary. And what we might do, where we maybe could move kids, Trent had that mapped out so that, you know, a little section would be here and a little section would be here. So we studied that area, and we had initially had two proposals. One took about 240, I don't think that's right. Justin, is that right? 240-ish students from Canesville to other schools. But as we started looking at potential growth in those areas, we started looking at available seating. It became apparent that that was a few too many, because we could move that and that we could accommodate that right now, but with future growth at Country View, that might become problematic and we would just overcrowd another school. So we don't want to do that. It also became apparent that we should probably leave West Haven alone. And let me show you why. West Haven Elementary's boundaries, sorry, I'm going to have to scan back out here. Apologize. Hope I'm not making you dizzy. Here's 3,500 right here. Okay, so part of the area that we're concerned about involves on 4800 and Midland Drive right here is new development. And some of that development is complete, and most of it is in process. There are 5 large apartment complexes on that corner that are subsidized housing and multiple family dwellings. They're already receiving students from that area, and we felt like as a committee, if we were to add students to West Haven, we would probably have a problem in the next year or two. So the committee determined that we would leave West Haven alone and just look at Country View. So with this really cool swipe right here, I'm going to move this back. Okay, so right here is Country View. This is Canesville. And as I swipe this over, you can see that this area right here is going to change. And that becomes the new area that goes to Canesville. So let me swipe that back. Right now, the line is drawn along 4,000, or yes, to Country View, sorry. Right now, that line is drawn along 4,000. But as we take this and move it, you can see what we've included. Now, one of the things I want to talk to you about is this arbitrary line right here. There is no development through there right now. So it's kind of a placeholder. As developments go in, we will take a look at subdivisions and streets and determine if we need to cut this way or cut that way. But right now, there are not too many plans. There's a farmer that owns a lot of this land right here that has stated he's not selling anytime in the near future. So this becomes an arbitrary line, and once we start development, we'll probably look at a level 1 boundary study, which kind of grandfathers areas with no students into a school. So this takes about 137-ish students to Country View Elementary. And I know that part of the question was about 6th graders next year. Mr. Willie is here, Principal Willie from Canesville. He's going to work with families on a case-by-case basis for boundary exemptions. 5th graders going into 6th grade will receive those priority because we want them to be able to finish their elementary schooling at Canesville if that's something that they want to do. So let me just show you this one more time, and then if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them if I can. So current boundaries. Then you can see it starts to grow. Initially, this line went down like that, and we decided it probably wasn't a very nice thing to cut subdivision in half. We do have a little line here that is West Haven proper. And if we need to at some point, we'll do a level 1 boundary exception and move this little corner into West Haven. But for right now, I think our committee has done a good job and due diligence. Do you have any questions about the elementary boundary adjustments? Say that again. Okay, let me move it. Where'd it go? Okay, right there. All right. This road, this is 5,100. It's still 5,100. Okay, so 5,100 becomes the west boundary. It always has been. And then we cut up to 3,300 and take in from 4,000 to 3,300 west or south. Okay, all right. Turn the time to Art.
Okay, I need to move the straight out of her map. Oh, just X out of there. All right, we're going to look at our, whoops, I got to get to the correct slide here. We're going to look, we broke ours up into two secondary boundary study teams. We met separately each time and gave each of the teams a similar task. We had the Fremont-Roy district boundary study team, and we had the Fremont-Weber district boundary study team. And when we say Fremont-Roy and Fremont-Weber, we're talking about Cone, not just the high schools on that. Okay, and the task that we gave the district study team to take down to their local boundary study team, which would include a makeup of at least half parents, parents coming from your community council, PTSA, and anyone else that wanted to voluntarily be on that committee. The task that was given, we gave them the data showing the overcrowding at Fremont High School, 11 portable classrooms built just way over capacity. And we gave them the data that showed that Weber High had capacity for about 200 more students, and Roy High had the capacity for about 175 more students. And we also knew that we're creeping up to capacity already at the new Walquist as well as at Rocky Mountain. So what could we do to shift our boundaries? That was the task. What could we do? Where would we shift? How big of a shift would we be looking at? And initially we told them, go back to your school teams and look at maybe 25 kids per grade and look at approximately 50 kids per grade, and just come back with a couple plans where that would be. And if you took 25 kids per grade, that would increase that over 3 years. That'd be 75 kids. If you took 50, it'd be 150 students, and it would push Roy and Weber closer to their capacity while taking or creating more room at the schools that would have the biggest need for growth, or the biggest need for room to accomplish that growth that we would be receiving with new housing development. So that was the task, and we left it at that. We gave them all the data on the neighborhoods and said we'll meet back together again in January. That was back in November. We gave them 2 months, and in the meantime, their teams presented to community councils, PTSAs, solicited input from their community, and in January we came back with those proposals. And what Cammie and I did were we simply facilitated these discussions with these teams, built consensus, and obviously when you have 8 different schools affected, and we had 8 different plans, or actually 2 from each school. And so as they each discussed it, what their plan was and why they chose to submit that plan, everyone listened and realized, this is a wonderful process. The process that the board has set up and the philosophy behind this is seeking public input. The ideas that came in, just kind of blew us away, didn't it? We were like, wow, we hadn't even considered that. That's why we take it to the community, the people that live in those communities, and let them tell us their needs. And by the end of that meeting in January, we had complete consensus. Every district boundary study school team said, yep, this is the plan. In fact, we don't even we think there's only one plan. We're submitting two because you asked us to, but we like Plan A, and this is our Plan A. And so what I'll show you in the map here. Whoops, got to go the right way. We'll start with the junior high adjustments in the north end. Excuse me, the south end. Over at the Roy Fremont area. And we'll pull this up and just pull it in a little tighter here. Okay, this is 4,000 south. This is 4,800 south. And this line here is 4,300 west. When we talked and let the committees speak, they said, we believe it would be in the best interest of our students that live in these areas to, if they live in Roy City, have them attend Roy High School. And we said, okay, so how many kids does that affect? And we looked at the numbers and said, okay, that affects about 32 students, because Roy's boundaries kind of jog around here like this and up into here. And said, okay, well, but they said, we want to go a little deeper. And the reason we want to go deeper is, and to select more students is, we don't want to come back and do this again next year or the next couple of years. We would like to buy more time before we'd have to build a new junior high or high school. And we can still do this if we work with that 50 students per grade number. So we said, where would that come from? And West Haven Elementary boundaries. Okay, this is West Haven Elementary that runs through here. Cammie was showing you their boundaries. Actually, it's kind of runs up through here. But it continues clear down to 4,300. So currently, West Haven Elementary kids go to school with their peers until 6th grade. Then this group of students right in this block goes to Rocky Mountain Junior High. And these students go up to Sandridge. And their contention was, they said, let's keep they make friends in elementary school. This is the time, then we could, if we pulled these kids, that would give us that number close to 50. And now these students would be continuing. They'd go to elementary, junior high, and high school together. And Mr. Elliott at Sandridge says, we have room. We'd love to take all of West Haven kids, not just 80% of them. Let's take them all. And so that's, when they said that, the rest of the group said, well, that makes sense. Let's take Roy City and then all of West Haven Elementary boundaries and make it our proposal. And that's the only proposal we want to submit. Now, on the sheet that I gave you, we showed you the B proposal they had, but they really only wanted to propose A. And that was the reason behind that. So we step out of here for a second. And I'll go to the high school boundaries and see how that affected Roy High's boundary and Fremont's boundary. Okay, so we look at back here, and we have the current Roy High boundary, and we have Fremont's boundary. This area here, about from here where you see the cursor and through here, that's all Roy City. And here's where we go down to the elementary boundary. So the proposal would be to move from current boundary there. And this includes all of Roy City now and all of West Haven Elementary. Okay? So we'll go back here. And then we'll look at do we have any questions on the Roy Fremont adjustment and how they came to that? Okay, now let's scoot over to our next one. Whoops, gotta go the right way. To the Weber Fremont, and they received the same task, knowing that Weber had capacity of about 200 more students. And Orion actually gained capacity of about 80 students with the switch from last year's adjustment, taking all of Green Acres Elementary over to North Ogden. They had previously been attending Orion Junior High. So freeing up capacity at Orion we were able to accommodate the goals of this committee. When they came back, their proposal, and I'll pull that up again. We'll go back to the junior high boundaries. They decided that in their proposal, they also wanted to do the same thing. They didn't want to have just a small amount. They said, let's do it by city. Their proposal was to take the current boundaries at Orion Junior High School and Walquist. Make that a little bit bigger. Okay, this is current Orion Junior High boundary, current Walquist boundary. And their proposal was to, current, what's that? Okay, current, we had Harrisville, part of Harrisville. Oh, there we go. Current Harrisville right here. This is 89. I'm trying to make this a little bit bigger so you can see where we're at. Okay, this is Highway 89. And this is the railroad tracks, the Union Pacific railroad tracks that run through there. And this is the boundary right here between Far West and Harrisville, and it kind of stretches out through here, and this becomes Pleasant View. So their proposal was to take that and take in city boundaries. This is Pleasant View that stretches through here, and this is Harrisville that comes through here. And Weber High and Orion, Principal Ernest and Principal Wardle said, we have room. Let's take all of Pleasant View and all of Harrisville. We'll leave Far West intact and Merritt Slaterville. Yes, Pioneer Elementary was involved because these are Pioneer Elementary students. And prior to this, they had about 10% of their students attending Orion. There was a section of Pioneer Elementary students right through here. So as you look at their current boundaries, the proposal was to add, and that would become Orion's new boundary. Then when we go over to the high school, and looked how that affected us up here on that end. What would that look like at the high school? I'm going to get there. Okay, here's your current high school boundary. This is Fremont, this is Weber High. Under the proposal, it would look like that, Weber High School. And what they accomplished through all this was they were able to add about, over a 3-year period, probably about 135 kids that would be shifting over to Weber High. And when you add them up between the south end and the north end, we just freed up a lot of space for new growth at Fremont, Walquist, and Rocky Mountain. And the committees knew that this would be the fiscal responsible thing to do. We would save the district years before we have to build another secondary school out in that area, just by making those shifts. And in your packet, you have the details that we considered because we knew there would be some questions. In fact, as Cammie and I facilitated these meetings, we threw out all these things that parents might be worried about. And we sent them back again to their local teams. Said, okay, this is the proposal. Now go discuss it in your committees again. Then we met once again, and they said, hey, even though it's uncomfortable for some, it's the right thing to do. We want to continue, and this is the proposal we want to take to the board. And we made that final determination in our last meeting Monday after holding open houses all last week, gathering more feedback. And it was a great process, board. A lot of input. And while maybe not everyone was happy with it, we think that with the accommodations we're looking at with some boundary exceptions that we'll grant, it will solve our problems with our capacities and still allow parent choice. Mr. Ritchie.
One question, and I should have done it when you said, do we have any questions, but The most emails I've been getting are the corner of 48 and 43.
Yes.
And so how is that going to be handled? Is that open enrollment when you got Rocky right across the street?
Yep, and that's why, one thing about boundary exceptions and how we address that, and you're talking about right here, in this area right here.
No, go up to the other corner. Isn't that?
This is 4800, this is 4300, and Rocky is here.
Yeah.
That is easily in walking distance, so we wouldn't, with boundary exceptions, the district does not provide transportation if they elect to go on a boundary exception. But this gives, since we've agreed in our proposal to you to allow boundary exceptions for all these students, should they choose, they can simply walk. They wouldn't have to have parents take them to school. But at the same time, it allows all those students that want to stay with their peers to stay together through elementary, junior high, and high school. So it really doesn't affect those that say, we live so close, which is true. You have choice. As a parent, you can choose to do a boundary exception, which we would grant at Rocky, or you can select to have your students stay together with their peers from elementary all the way up.
Did you mention there was 32 in that area?
About 32.
32 right now that would.
Per grade. Yep. And that we have received a lot of feedback on that, but we've explained that we would propose to allow parent choice. Transportation would not be an issue for them.
Board, any other questions? Do I have a motion to accept the elementary school boundary proposal and the proposal A of the high school, junior high, high school boundaries? Oh, yeah, one on the north, one on the south. Proposal A is for the high school. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Board, appreciate you being here since 2:45 today. I know you school employees have been here a lot longer, but we're not used to this. So thank you very much, Art. Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
Do we have any people here that served on the committees to do the boundary adjustments? We appreciate what you've done so much, because it comes from where you live, and it really helps us. So thank you so much. If I have no further business to come before the board, do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.